Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having as glorious a morning as I am here, man. I tell you what, it is a picture-perfect day out here in Florida. I know a lot of the country has experienced some rough weather over the past week or so, and I hope you're coming out from under some of that, because it is certainly glorious here, and I wish you to have a glorious day. But we got a great show for you today. We got a couple of articles. I hope we can get to both of them. One is about the Democrats in the House of Representatives, and I guess to a certain extent the Senate, but certainly in the House of Representatives. They can't seem to work with their GOP colleagues because they can't forgive them for their votes to potentially not certify the election, for everything that happened on January 6th. And there is a lot of animosity coming out. They can't even agree on what post offices to name. So they're having a hard time getting the people's work done. And we'll talk about that and a plan that I've come up with to solve all of that, and maybe then some. And then, of course, you know, if you had a Best Picture award for Double Standard, the winner would certainly be the Democrats, the Biden White House, because The Kids in Cages, man, is a sequel. It is happening all over again, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we go any further, I always have to mention our sponsors. Big Daddy Unlimited, BDU. We come to you live every day, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern, or close as we can to it, across various Facebook channels. Our YouTube channel is now finally, I believe, straightened out, so you should be able to go directly to John Martin Talks YouTube, and our subscribers are growing every day. We certainly need to pump that up, and we greatly appreciate it. But none of this would be possible without our sponsors, especially Big Daddy Unlimited. If you want to check out our sponsors, the easiest way to do that is, no matter when or where you're watching the video, go above the video. You'll see a description of today's show. Scroll down, you'll see several links, one of which will take you to Big Daddy Unlimited, your Second Amendment headquarters, because not only can you get guns and ammunition delivered directly to your door at factory direct pricing, but you can get discounts on thousands, literally 100,000 other items that have to do with the Second Amendment, all the way down to swag, but counting protective gear, survival gear, even knives, all that kind of thing. Anything that remotely has to do with the Second Amendment, you will find it at factory direct price and delivered directly to your door under the Big Daddy Unlimited umbrella. And I call them your Second Amendment headquarters because that's exactly what they are. They're not only selling you products, but they are defending your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis. So check them out. We also have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. Occasionally I rock some of their shirts. I had one on yesterday. Check out our podcast there. But remember, John Martin Talks, so the initials JMT, you get 20% off of some of the best looking patriotic apparel basic you can find at patriotthreads.org. And they can even help you set up charitable events as well. So check them out. Of course, Recoil TV. We have a growing relationship with Recoil TV, and we're very grateful for that. Our show is now archived on Recoil TV. They are all about the Second Amendment as well. It's basically a video hosting platform, and they show all kind of video that has to do with the latest Second Amendment as far as guns, ammunition, tactical gear, all of that, how to use them. You cannot go wrong with Recoil TV. They had their own YouTube channel. Check it out. You can get apps at Google Play and the iPhone store as well for Recoil TV. Check them out. All right, let's get on with the show. This is the publication called The Hill we're using as a template for this. Democratic fury with GOP explodes in the House. I saw this meme the other day and I just had to copy it, man. It is pretty funny because it is pretty descriptive of what we have now. It is a zoo up there in Washington right now. And as I say, I'm going to unveil a little bit later in this segment a plan for solving all that. Democratic fury over the mob attack. They call out, this is January 6th. They're talking, it's a mob attack. It's insurrection. It's this, that. It's a Trump, people gone mad. I mean, it's just a mad scene. Democratic fury over the mob attack on the Capitol and its aftermath is spilling into nearly every aspect of life in the House, squashing hope for comity. I guess that means getting along, right? And threatening even mundane legislative tasks like the naming of a local post office. Let me tell you, now I'm going to unveil my plan to you right now. If only this thing would just grind to a halt. I don't know about you, but it would be all right with me if they didn't pass any new legislation. Keep in mind, we've got plenty of laws, more laws than we can possibly obey right now. But here's my plan, okay, to solve all of this, and then we'll get into some of the details of what's actually going on. But I'm this is kind of jokingly, but I'm actually pretty serious right about this. How about this? And you got to hear me all the way out. How about we don't worry about even having session? Just shut everything down. Shut the legislature down. As far as I'm concerned, you could probably shut the White House down, but you probably got to keep them for the State Department and stuff like that. But just shut the legislature down. You know, a lot of times state legislatures, they didn't always meet every year. Some of them still don't. Some of them meet like every other year. But a lot of them used to only meet every other year. And Congress didn't actually have to meet. Even the Constitution, they don't have to meet all the time like they do now. They're basically become 24/7. But here's what my thing. Let's shut the whole thing down for a decade. Let's shut it all down across the board. We could still pay them. We don't have to have elections or anything. Just pay them, stay at home like they're doing to school teachers right now. Pay them to stay at home. We'll come out cheaper, trust me. Keep all the laws we currently have on the books. I'm not saying I agree with all of them. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying keep them all so we don't have to make any changes whatsoever. We can still enforce them. Keep the budget basically the same as it's been the last several years, but just have a 1% cut. So every department that currently exists is funded at the same level it is right now, with one exception. You cut 1% every year. Just a penny, like the penny plan, right? For 10 years, cut it once a year, 1%, period. And then we come back in 10 years and see where we are. Of course, we could always call it back in if we thought we needed to. But I think the country would be better off if we just shut Congress down. Forget the Republicans, the Democrats, whatever. Shut them down. Keep the laws as they are right now. Keep the budget level the same and just cut everything by 1% per year. Now, I know that that's not going to happen, but I guarantee you we'd be better off than the yahoos we got up there on both sides of the aisle. Democrats accuse Republicans of nothing short of sabotaging the nation's democracy with false claims that November's election was, and I can't say that S word, it's kind of, well, you'll know, former President Trump, I'm not saying the S word, that it was, I guess you could say it was squealed away. It was squealed away. To me, instead of saying that one S word, there's two S words I can't say. One of them says Olin, and the other one is eel, right? You have to block myself out right now. But instead of just worrying about that, why don't we just call it squealing, man? The election was squealed away. There's just no doubt about it. Show those pigs at the trough like we just did. And that pretty much is a description of Washington, D.C. One of the best descriptions you'll ever see is just basically pigs at the trough. Because I got a mentor of mine, Tom Hayes Morrison. Howdy, Tom, if you're watching. Hope you're doing well. But I used to fill in on his radio show, and he kind of got me started in this business, basically. But he used to say, that we only had one party. And I think he's right when you get to the top. He said, we got one party, the party of big government. It has a left wing and a right wing. And I think he's absolutely right about that. And closer you get up to it, there's not a hill of beans difference between them. I mean, look at our Supreme Court, for instance, for God's sakes. And me and a friend of mine that watches the show, how are you, Daniel? You know who I'm talking about. We talked about this yesterday. I mean, how disappointing if you're a conservative, but let alone a Trump supporter, can you be with the Supreme Court right now? We did a whole show on it the other day. Check out our podcast. A couple of ways to do that. Go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page. You'll see it there. But go to our YouTube channel. Of course, it's archived on Recoil TV, but our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. We're also archived on America's Voice News, one of the best alternatives you'll find to the mainstream media. I'm not currently on there live, but our show is on their archive. The way to find it is to go on their streaming service, which is Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, America's Voice News. They're on channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. You can download free apps on your Android or your iPhone, but look, we're on their streaming service. Look under the shows tab, click on that, search us out. You'll see John Martin Talks there on a daily basis. But how disappointed are you with our Supreme Court? So I say that to say, does it really make a difference who's on the Supreme Court? It doesn't appear to, because the liberals are getting their way no matter what. So, what difference can we, especially from a conservative's point of view, wouldn't we be better just to kind of freeze us right where we are rather than take the chance of us getting worse? Because let me ask you, the more government functions, does it get better or does it get worse? To me, it seems like it's getting worse all the time. So I say freeze it right where it is for like 10 years and then see what happens. Hey, I don't see how it could be worse. Already angry, back to the article, already angry that the refusal by some Republicans to wear masks to prevent spread of COVID-19 was endangering lives, Democrats now see the GOP as directly putting lawmaker lives on the line with dangerous rhetoric that feeds outlandish conspiracy theories. So they're chastising Republicans for not wearing masks inside the Capitol. Well, maybe they're just trying to be bipartisan. I mean, if you're new to the show, first of all, howdy, how are you? Welcome to it. This is my psychic sidekick, by the way, Billy Bob Bass. He kind of keeps me straight on the show. He has a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're determined, ladies and gentlemen, to stay in the public square no matter what. So we're expanding, and more is yet to come, but we're expanding into all venues to try to keep the show going, and it's doing well. Thank you very much. Ultimately, it always comes down to you. But we're not going to abandon Facebook and Twitter and everything else. They may kick us off. Oh, algorithm, he is a tough son of a gun. So they may, they're trying to kick a whole country off in Australia. So you know what they might do with little old JMT. But we're not going to abandon the public square. But one of my axioms, if you will, is about bipartisanship. Bipartisanship, now I know what the textbook says it means, but in reality, what it means is Republicans cave. That's what they do. They cave, because you can't name me. Well, I'll put this challenge out. Nobody's been able to beat me on it yet. And you can go to like Facebook and chime in there. I'll do my best to respond to you as soon as possible. I appreciate all the love you guys are showing me. But answer me this. Can you name one time when the Republicans were for something, whatever it is, and the Democrats were adamantly opposed to it, and that Democrats had a change of heart and say, them old MFers at Republican GOPers, like Biden, one of his aides said, they're all a bunch of effers. That those effers, otherwise known as the GOP, they got it right. We were wrong, and we're going to go full bore with them. It never happens. But the other side, where you have Democrats for something and Republicans were opposed at one point and cave in, it happens on a daily basis. And that's only going to get worse. So I say maybe when they talk about these GOP House members not wearing masks, maybe they're actually just trying to be bipartisan and give due deference to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And if you don't believe me, just check out this video from the past right here. In case you didn't know what that was, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's silent. That is the actual footage from a beauty salon that was shut down due to COVID in San Francisco. The lovely lady you see there going through there maskless is none other than Nancy Pelosi, violating her own rules and regulations in California, putting people's health at risk, herself at risk. For God's sake, she's 80 years old. I mean, if anybody's susceptible, that just shows you the left. And we're going to talk more about this probably tomorrow. But the left, they don't believe what they're selling you a bill of goods, and they don't believe it. The proof is in the pudding. If they really believe that that COVID and the pandemic was a death sentence for people over 80, and that masks were the way to prevent it, would Nancy Pelosi leave her house without a mask, let alone go into a public place without a mask? Really? Is she really on a suicide watch? But maybe these Republicans that are refusing to wear masks in the House are just saying, hey, Nancy showed us the way. She showed us what they truly believe, and to do deference to her, we're not going to wear a mask either. I'm just pointing out, maybe it is. Back to this article. Representative Dan Kildee, Democrat of Michigan, said of the 139 Republicans who voted to reverse the election results, basically that's not true. The number may be right, but what they're claiming here, reverse the election, that's not what they voted on. They voted on not to certify certain states due to cause and to investigate it. And I guess you could make a case that if that actually went through, that potentially it could be reversed. But we've shown you video before. We're not going to show it today, but this is routine. What happened on January 6th, and I'm not talking about the armed insurrection, I'm talking about what actually happened in the joint session of the Senate and House to certify the election, has happened, and the challenge of it, the voting, has happened multiple times before. In fact, the Democrats have done exactly that the last 3 times that a Republican was elected to the presidency. The Democrats did the same thing that the Republicans did on January 6th. But you never hear that. They make it sound like, oh, this is so when you're trying to squeal the election. But oh no, it's typical, right? So it says this is what Mr. Kildee said. He said it's impossible for us, talking about Democrat House members, to work with the GOP. He said it's impossible for us not to look at them in a different light. Well, I understand where he's coming from, because I feel the same way about what I call the dirty 10. In other words, the 10 Republicans that actually voted to impeach Donald Trump in the House of Representatives, led by none other than Liz Cheney, who still has her spot, by the way. So, you know, I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. If I was allowed to cast only one vote, period, for anything, and that vote was to get rid of the whole lot of them up there, Republicans and Democrats, to start over. Of course, I think my 10-year plan is the way to go. I would do exactly that. In fact, I am inspired by this video. I've played it before and I've used it in multiple places, but I got to tell you, this video I'm about to play you is one of the most inspirational videos you will find on the web anywhere, and we have it for you exclusively right here at JMT. Check it out. I just love that, man. Around the bowl and down the hole. Flush them all out. If I could cast one vote, I would take that kitty cat's lead and just pull the lever one time on all of them. Cha-cha-choosh, man. Shut it down. Shut it down. And it's already packed away. Look at this picture. This is an actual picture of our lovely capital, one of the most scenic places government-wise on the planet. And it is literally wrapped in barbed wire and fencing and walls and everything. So they've already got the Capitol packed away. So we could just let it, go for 10 years, come back and see it is. It's already packed up, but I'm ready to flush the whole lot myself, man. I don't know about you. I gotta make a little adjustment. Sometime live stuff comes at you. Here we go. Back to this article. Bad blood reached a new level Tuesday night when Representative Sean Casten, Democrat of Illinois, is there anything other than Democrats in Illinois? It seems that way anyway. Took the I pity you conservatives, you American patriots that live in places like Illinois. You can come to Florida, just don't bring your politics with you. But Mr. Casten, Democrat of Illinois, took the highly unusual step of forcing a full floor vote on an uncontroversial bill to name a Mississippi post office because it was authored by a Republican who voted to overturn the election. So normally they just kind of rubber stamp these bills about naming post office. We make jokes about it sometimes, but this is no joking matter. They got to have a total House floor vote on it. It was equally evident during a Postal Service hearing on Wednesday as a furious Representative Jerry with a G, Connolly, Democrat of Virginia, lashed out at a top Trump ally, Representative Jim Jordan, I wish he was Speaker of the House, from Ohio, who had accused Democrats of attacking Postmaster General Louis DeJoy last year simply to damage Trump's re-elections. Jordan said in this debate about the postmaster, said it was all a charade. And he made a very lengthy little speech about it. He pointed out some various obvious things, that Mr. DeJoy was actually being accused of wrongfully doing things that every other postmaster had done, like moving the post office boxes, all that. But Mr. Connolly shot back. Apparently he was putting his finger out there in Jordan's face. He said, "I didn't vote to overturn an election, and I will not be lectured by people who did about partisanship." So he's putting Mr. Jordan in his place. So they're arguing over nonsense up there. And I told you about Billy Bob. Billy Bob tells me we actually have a citizen response, a video of a citizen responding and calling it like it is and what is actually happening with people on both sides of the aisle in D.C. right now. Can we hear from that voter? Check it out.
Oh, because some came in the mail today.
Yeah, I did.
These nuts. Got him! Got him!
Believe it or not, that thing's gotten millions and millions of views. I mean, we're pretty shallow in this country, but these nuts, man, that's what they are up there. A bucket full of nuts, man. It is going to cry. I'm just telling you, tell me where I'm wrong on this. I honestly believe we'd be better off just shutting Congress down for a decade. Go to my plan. I'll reiterate it here in just a minute and just see where we are in 10 years. How could it possibly be worse? Freshman Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is fast becoming a hero of mine, Republican from Georgia. She's the one they shut down for wearing the Trump mask right there. I like that. It said Trump won. Who called former President Trump's stand on January 6th, our 1776 moment, forced a vote Wednesday to end House business. Hey, that is a good vote. Let's end it, Marjorie. You can be the leader of it. Let's end it for a decade. But in House business for a day, it failed, but not before grumbling from members of both parties. Now, I just thought of something. You know what I'd like to see? I told you guys I'm a kind of a big wrestling fan. I would love to see a match between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ocasio-Cortez, man. Wouldn't you like to see like a steel cage match between them two? And I'd referee it in a heartbeat, man. I would do it. I would absolutely referee this thing. So I'm volunteering my services to be the referee between Ocasio-Cortez and Marjorie Greene. I would love to see that match, man. Let me know, and we'll try to make it happen. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's hard not to say that when you say her name, who blamed some GOP lawmakers for endangering her, which was a lie, by the way. It's come out now that she was never in any harm's way. But she says it's going to be, talking about working with the GOP, it's going to be much harder to work across the aisle. Really? Like what? Like she was chomping at the bit to work across the aisle with Republicans. Really? Really? Now, I want to play a video. We've played it before, but I think it's very germane to this particular thing because they're saying basically that Republicans are inspiring the mob out there, that they're worried about their safety. They got to lock down the Capitol. Democrats never, ever talk about like radicalizing people, do they? Except maybe this person, Ocasio-Cortez, says, let me read it again, it's going to be much harder to work across the aisle. Now, I want to play this video of her talking about what they response to Ruth Bader Ginsburg death and what they need to do, and see if this would make it easier or harder to work across the aisle. Check it out.
Let this moment radicalize you. Let this moment really put everything into stark focus, because this election has always been about the fight of and for our lives. And if anything, tonight is making that more clear to more people than ever before. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get more and more and more clear up until Election Day. Things are going to happen.
Things are going to happen. Somebody did something somewhere. There's somebody, like one of her other Twitter twat people. I call that squad the Twitter twat, by the way, but I think it's more descriptive. But here you have Ocasio-Cortez saying that, you know, it's going to be hard to work across the aisle because these Republicans, these dastardly Republicans, actually exercised their constitutional right and voted to not certify Joe Biden election, which, as I told you, the last 3 Republicans that were elected president had the same process cast upon them by Democrats. But there's no double standard. You hear double standard? I'm here to tell you, there is no double standard. If you're new to the show, you might be going, what do you mean? Sure. No, there's not a double standard. There is one standard. People like these Republicans are being held to a standard. What standard is Ocasio-Cortez held? She can literally say, let this moment radicalize you, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get clearer and clearer that you need to be radicalized. And she's not impeached, but Donald Trump can say, go down there and peacefully and patriotically protest, and he's impeached overnight. There's no double standard. There is a standard that people on the right, that Trump supporters are held to, that Donald Trump is held to. You know, they're trying, even in Florida here now. I mean, right now we have flags half-staffed in memory of Rush Limbaugh by our great governor, Ron DeSantis. But do you know that the Democrats-led areas have refused to do that? Refused to do it. Now, they don't have to love her. I mean, think about that. Are we really going to get that petty where we're picking and choosing when a governor who has the authority to say that, on government property, all flags should be lowered to half-staff to honor someone, that they're going to pick and choose who to do that to? I mean, and there's supposed to be unity. Couldn't you just, I mean, this flag has been at half-staff for people I didn't particularly agree with, but hey, I mean, and I'm not even knocking her, but you remember, didn't Obama actually lower the flag to half-staff for Whitney Houston? And I'm a big fan of Whitney Houston. It's tragic what happened to her, and I don't wish her, but I don't know that the flag should have been put at half-staff for a singer as great as she was. I mean, why? And I'm not necessarily saying it should have been for Rush Limbaugh, although I certainly agree he had a major impact, certainly in government more so than Whitney Houston. But if you're gonna, and I didn't object to it. I didn't say, oh, well, and I was mayor at the time in the city of Hawthorne, I believe, certainly a city commissioner. I have to go back and look at it. But I didn't object to the flag being half-staff because the president had said we need to lower the flags to half-staff. And that was good enough for me. I don't have to pick it. The president had the authority to do that. He did it. Governor DeSantis has the authority, and he did it. But the Democrats want to pick and choose and make a big deal of it, man. There is no double standard. There's a standard for the right, none whatsoever for the left. I mean, if there was a double standard, what about Cuomo right now? You see what all's happening with Cuomo? There's more stuff coming out on him every day. And I'm not saying he's guilty. He deserves his day in court, so to speak. But he's been what it seems fairly credibly accused by one of his staffers of sexual assault. But and he's being hit by Democrats. Let me tell you, the only reason why Cuomo is being hit right now by Democrats is because Trump's no longer. I mean, that's the worst thing could have happened to Cuomo is Trump, because it didn't matter what Cuomo did. He could be killing your grandma in a nursing home as long as he was anti-Trump. Well, they're willing to forgive that. But now that Trump is gone and Cuomo can't really be anti-Biden, right? Now he doesn't have that foil of Trump, to go against. So he's coming under the light. We'll see what happens to that. Back to the article. Republicans, for their part, accuse Democrats of distorting the events of January 6th in order to paint the entire GOP as complicit for the actions of the mob. You think? You think that's true? That's not an over-exaggeration. I mean, they're basically saying MAGA might as well be another four-letter word, ISIS. In other words, if you're a Trump supporter, you might as well be a jihadi, man. I mean, I didn't see anybody getting beheaded or anything like that. But basically, if you're a Trump supporter, man, now you are a target. The FBI is coming at. They're coming after your money and everything else. It's crazy. Deplatform you, the whole works. Why can't American people just be smart enough, and they are, by the way, to either change the channel or whatever? Why can't we listen to all sides and make up our own mind? Why do we have to be controlled? Because that's what this is all about. Even the proposed 9/11 style commission to look into January 6th domestic terror attack has been bogged down by partisan politics. Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California. Have you seen who she put in charge of investigating what happened on January 6th? This General Henry. I mean, what a piece of work that dude is, man. I mean, he is not biased at all. But it's been circulating Pelosi's been circulating draft legislation that would create an independent bipartisan commission, which means Republicans cave, where Democrats would get 7 appointments and Republicans 4. Well, I'm sticking with the Martin plan. We need to go. We had a Marshall Plan that saved Germany. We could have a Martin Plan that saves the United States of America. Once again, I say shut it down. Shut the whole Congress down. Just shut them down. Keep the laws just as they are. Don't change a thing. Cut the budget and keep the budget the same, except for one caveat. Every department gets funded exactly this year like they did last year. Same amount of money. Except every year going forward, we cut it by 1%, the penny plan. And then we come back in 10 years and see where we are. I guarantee you it won't be worse, and I'd be willing to bet you it would be a whole lot better. Remember that, the Martin plan. Call your Congress now. All right, let me check the time. We're doing okay. Sorry about that, a little bang there. I got to bring out, talking about double standards, or as I say, only a single standard. This next story, man, it just takes the cake. This is a Breitbart story. White House flounders at left's kids in cages rage. We only have a couple of choices. Kids in cages. Remember that when Trump, he put these kids in cages, even though they showed a picture, the picture they circulated around of Trump's kids in cages actually was Obama's kids in cages from 2014. Remember that? Oh yeah, they didn't get any apology from that. But now the Democrats are doing the same dadgum thing and getting some pushback from Ocasio-Cortez of all people. At least maybe she's consistent. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez condemned the newly reopened camps used to detain unaccompanied minors until they can be transferred into the country. Unaccompanied, think about that. That means nobody was with them. What are you supposed to do with them? White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, she is becoming more a piece of work every day, stands firm with the Biden administration's decision. Well, at least Ocasio-Cortez is consistent. Now, remember, when she went down to the border during the Trump administration, she came back all aghast because she saw women drinking out of toilets, and she painted a picture that they were literally, like the cat flush, and they were sticking their head and lapping it up, man, which turns out to be a total BS lie. What they had was these all-in-one toilets, like they tend to have sometimes in prisons, actually, but they're stainless steel, and you got to do it in these public-type places. They're stainless steel. The piping, I guess she doesn't know much about plumbing, because the water to fill the toilet and the water that goes into the spigot to drink, but guess what? Comes from the same source. It's not how it comes in that matters. It's where it goes after that matters. I hate to give you plumbing 101, but what you don't want to drink from is where it's flowing out of, not where it's flowing in. So they had these toilets that literally had a combination of a toilet, a sink, and on one side, a drinking fountain. And so she was saying, women are drinking out of the toilet. Oh my God. I mean, she probably believed that, man. But Ocasio-Cortez said of the Biden administration, this is not okay, talking about kids in cages. This is not okay, never has been okay, never will be okay, no matter the administration or party. Okay? Last okay I added for effect, man. But that's what she said. And hey, you know, as I say, at least maybe she's consistent. She doesn't know what she's talking about, but maybe at least she's being consistent in her attack on the administration. This press secretary, Paskey, responded by defending the decision by President Joe Biden's administration to reopen detainment camps for unaccompanied minors detained at the southern border. This is what the press secretary said. She said, our objective is to move these kids quickly from there to vetted sponsor facilities and to places where they can safely be. So let me read, this answer to this question. Let me read this one more time because I want to make a point here. This is what Mr. Biden's press secretary said about them putting kids in cages, just like they accused and attacked Donald Trump. She said, our objective is to move these kids quickly from there, from the cages, to vetted sponsored families and to places where they can be, where they can safely be. I guess what she was opposed to was Donald Trump's plan. What was Donald Trump's plan? Donald Trump's plan, just Lord of Flies, right? We get the people. I mean, this is what the media would have you believe, that Donald Trump's plan was to put these kids in cages and then put them on some island somewhere where they ruled by Lord of Flies. If you've never seen or read that book, you need to check it out because it's becoming real as we speak right now. But they put this picture out there basically of Donald Trump wanting to kill these kids, torture these kids. I mean, just unbelievable. Donald Trump was essentially doing the same thing. He was trying to find a place to put these kids. I mean, you got, when they're unaccompanied, which is a critical thing here, what do you do? It's just absolutely insane. But there's no double standard. As I told you, there's only one standard. What standard is Biden being held to on this? Biden promised during his 2020 campaign that he would close the facilities holding detained unaccompanied migrant children. Unaccompanied migrant children. Well, you know, Biden did say back during the campaign, he asked this question. I'm going to play this video for you right now of candidate, now president, I don't relish saying that, God help us, Joe Biden, when he was actually campaigning on this. And listen to the question he asked, and let's see if we can answer. Check it out.
You know me. You know my heart. You know my story, my family story. Ask yourself, do I look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters? Really? I want a safe America.
I can answer
safe
that.
from COVID.
Yes. Let me just give you an unequivocal one-word answer, Joe. Yes, you look like, you act like, if you walk like a duck, quack like a duck, you're a duck. You're a socialist. You said you want to be the most progressive president ever, and you're absolutely doing that. You know, it's unbelievable what you're doing. But let me answer that question. Yes, Joe, you absolutely look like that, and you're governing like that. Paskey said, this is the press secretary, she said, this facility in Texas, which has been reopened, has been reopened. So in other words, it was Trump closed it, now they've reopened it, has been revamped. There are teachers, there's medical facilities, teachers. So let me get this straight, man. I got to, before I get, maybe I'm on a rant here. So there are teachers at this facility with these children who are coming in, by the way, not COVID tested at all. All these migrants coming, all these illegal immigrants coming across the border are not being tested. So we got untested, undocumented children. Now, I don't blame them. I don't hold them responsible. Their parents, their governments, and everything else. But they're there. But they got teachers. So these kids are getting teachers, I'm assuming paid for by you and me. And I'm not necessarily opposed to them having teachers, but I want to see our kids taught first. I mean, we got teachers not showing up, won't even teach kids out in our major cities like LA and Chicago because they say it's unsafe and everything. You ever see that video? I guess I should get it and play it, where those teachers in Chicago are dancing around talking about how safe they want to be. It's just crazy. It's insane. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. We're putting teachers down on the border in closed quarters with kids who have not been tested for COVID, but we won't put our teachers into our schools. I mean, locally in the United States, and they're getting medical treatment. So in other words, people who are coming here illegally are getting better treatment than American citizens and American children. Are you okay with that? I know most of my audience isn't, but if you're a snowflake out there, do you really think it's fair that our children are being denied an education when children who are coming here illegally are getting one? And I guarantee you they're not teaching us about the greatness of America. But Customs and Border Protection apprehended 5,000. Listen, the numbers matter. Customs and Border Protection apprehended 5,871 unaccompanied minors in January of this year, up significantly from the low of only 741 in April in 2020 during the Trump administration. Look at those numbers. Almost 6,000, 5,871 under Biden, and now with Trump, it was only 741 at their lowest point. The Trump policies were working. Trump's policies at the border were working. But now it's chaos down there. No emergency, as Biden said. It just, I don't know. How can this be, man? It's just unbelievable. That's why I say shut it all down, as I said in the story before, for 10 years, and just keep the budget the same, keep all the laws the same. We could protect the border. We could still do that if we choose to. And cut 1 penny, 1% a year, and after 10 years, see where we are. I still think it would work. But listen to this. You talk about double standards. I think this is what this Paskey said. This press secretary, man, she is something else. She said, I think the difficulty is what I outlined earlier. We have kids coming across the border, she said. It's heartbreaking. I think we all as human beings are heartbroken, but we only have a couple of choices. Only have a couple of choices. So she's basically saying they don't have any choice but to follow what Donald Trump did. Of course, he had a choice, put them on Lord of the Flies or whatever. But you know, you don't understand. You don't understand. Donald Trump made all the wrong choices. He chose to snatch these kids from the bosom of their family. We don't have any choice but to put these kids in the cages that Obama built. I mean, talk about double standards. I'm telling you, there is no double standard. There's a standard for the right. There's a standard for any. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Did you ever think we would get to the point where if you're for free speech, if you're for the Second Amendment, if you're for the Bill of Rights, my God, if you're for the U.S. Constitution, you are the problem. If you wave the American flag, forget the Trump flag or Confederate flag. If you wave the American flag, you're a white supremacist. If Donald Trump puts unaccompanied minors in holding areas that were built, pens, whatever you want to call them, that were built by Obama, he is what I think Biden called it at the time, the worst moral crime in the history of the country. That's Donald Trump. But if you're Joe Biden and you do the exact same thing, it's because you only had a couple of choices. You got these kids' best interests at heart and everything else. I find myself actually agreeing with Ocasio-Cortez. I don't agree with what she said, but I agree with her consistency. It's just scary where we're going. And as I say, I believe, I'm going to give you my plan one more time, just so you, in case you're just coming into the last show. Here is my plan for fixing the whole crazy thing. I call it the Martin plan. Shut the entire Congress down for 10 years. Shut them down. Keep all the laws we have now. I don't agree with all of them, but keep them so we don't have to have Congress in session. Keep them as they are. Keep the budget level the same. All programs funded, no matter how crazy they may be, exactly the same amount. Cut 1% on the budget across the board, the penny plan. I've incorporated, I've stolen it, putting it in my plan. I've squealed it away, I guess, and put it in there 1% per year, and then see after 10 years where we are. I guarantee you, I'd be willing to bet you that we'll be in a lot better shape. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I try to bring it to you every day. I try to share with you my heart, my honesty, my perspective. I haven't said this in a while, but kind of how I see the show, Battling Ignorance and Apathy, I kind of see it as a bridge between like our founding fathers. I'm not saying I'm one, but I think I've got some of the same old logic in me that they had, and everybody now on the other side of the bridge who's staring at a phone. Not saying we can't learn something from you, but I'm trying to pass this information back and forth, because when my generation, the last one that were children of the greatest generation, when we're gone, then I don't know where you're going to get the message from, but you can get it right here every day. Please like what we're doing, share it, check out our sponsors, check out our YouTube channel, all those things. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please pray for my family, and I'll pray for your family. Let's all agree that we should pray for this great nation, because she deserves it and needs it now more than ever with all these nuts that are running it up there. But as I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.